All right, folks, so we got to move on. We got to end our show, unfortunately, by talking about episodes 5 and 6 of The Acolyte.
Strap in.
Episode 5 it's the best episode, easily, of the series.
Are you fucking kidding? You're out of your goddamn
mind.
No.
But to think about the other episodes, that is the lowest of the lowest bars.
No. This is one of the worst episodes of the series. This is...
With the lightsaber battles?
Oh my god. Steven, are you fucking kidding me right now?
But here's the thing. For them fighting with the lightsabers, there was no dialogue, so I couldn't be like...
Oh, yeah.
No, it wasn't good.
The fighting with the lightsabers, where the guy suddenly has this material that is the same as me when I was an 11-year-old having lightsaber battles with my friends, and we would say, no, I'm wearing Jedi armor.
Yes,
your lightsaber doesn't affect me. And then he bumps it, and the glass kind of crystal thing gets out of place. Oh, I gotta shake it, and then it's gonna turn back on. And then, Plo Koon just full killed. Right in the face! Right in your face!
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. It's him. This isn't the first time we've seen Plo Koon killed. I want to emphasize, he dies in the Clone Wars. We see him on screen die. So, I'm sorry. What the fuck are we talking about? And then my favorite line, you might call me a Sith. Oh yeah. Might? So you're not a Sith. I just want to make sure that I understand, because I feel like I'm losing something in translation in this weird, crazy version of Star Wars that you've cooked up. So he's not a Sith, but he has all the rules of a Sith, except that he has none of the rules of a Sith.
Yeah.
He just has the desires of a Sith without any of the coda of a Sith.
And that's the thing is, and let me preface this before you went on your rant. I couldn't quite get this out. I'm not saying this is a good episode. I'm not saying I enjoyed this episode. By me saying I think this is the best episode is because there may have been one or two moments during the fight scene where the choreography was well done that I didn't say, I want to shoot myself in the eye. Every episode I've seen before that has had me saying that the entire episode. This was still terrible.
I think the first episode is the best episode just because you don't know how bad it's going to get.
Oh, no, I hated it right from the start.
No, listen, I understand, but in the same way as what you're saying, the atrocities committed in the first episode compared to how things escalate from there and devolve is righteously bad.
So I guess we need to unlock the worst reveal in potentially the history of anything ever put onto
Jake Jordals was the bad guy the whole time?
Yes!
And we joked about this. We said, that's stupid, but this show is stupid, so they could end up doing that.
Oh, yeah. And it was like, as soon as he took the mask off and they made it like this dramatic thing, we're like, I think even the people who were fans of the show were like, yeah.
Duh.
We knew exactly who the fuck it was. It was Agent Ezra Miller.
She says, I'm going to betray my master. And he says, don't do that. And she says, I'm going to do it. And then all of a sudden the guy shows up and has already killed the Wookiee.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to go with this idiot.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't make sense, but it is. That's the thing.
Dude's jacked.
He is. Good for him. Hey, listen, they made him look attractive. This is the Kylo Ren playbook. If you have a bad character who has no plot and is dumb, have him take off his shirt, have hair in his face so he looks like a handsome, pretty boy, and then just have that be his whole thing.
Which I do love his nickname online, Smilo Ren.
Yeah.
Because of the smiling... I think
and then we have that. We haven't even talked about that yet.
Oh, the smiley mask?
Oh my... The whole of it. The whole of the costume is terrible.
To me, it looked like they wanted the look of... If you remember at the end of Return of the King, when the mouth of Sauron comes out.
Yeah, but the mouth of Sauron is horrifying to look at.
It is, but like when the mouth is closed and it just has the blank eyes from top up and then the smile. That's the only thing I could think of. Yeah, that they saw that and they're like, we want to do that.
But it's a terrifying smile because the lips are decayed and pulled back.
Oh, no, it is.
And he has pointed, sharpened teeth.
I'm not saying they nailed it. I'm saying I could see them watching that, saying that's what we want to do, and then doing a bad fucking version of that.
If that's the case, then we have a lot more to worry about because that is such a dumb way to go about achieving that goal. So if that was what they were doing...
Most of this show, they're like, oh, I saw this somewhere, let's do that, and then they do it bad.
How much was I not looking forward to this? I want to walk through the procedure of the night. I was playing Guardians of the Galaxy. I was having a great time. I was enjoying myself. Kelly went to bed. I was like, let me go up to bed with you for a little bit. I'll say goodnight. I'll say goodnight to the boys. I'm sitting with Kelly. While I'm sitting with her, I have the realization that we are doing the show in the morning. That means that I have 2 episodes of The Acolyte that have to get done. Toot sweet. Which means I have to stop playing Guardians and start doing that. I didn't start watching Acolyte for another hour and a half because I found literally any excuse to not watch it. I did all my chores. One of our projects for this weekend, for Independence Day weekend, quote unquote Independence Day weekend, was cleaning out our basement. And so I went down and started cleaning our basement again because I didn't want to watch this fucking trash fire.
Yeah.
Kelly was like, you should stop watching it. I was like, we're so close. We're so close to being not watching this anymore.
See, that's the problem, is it has its finger so much in the zeitgeist at the moment that the only saving grace is that it's a typical Disney show, like half hour to 40 minutes.
No, not 40 minutes, because I looked, episode 5, the credits were more than 5 minutes long at the end of the episode.
The credits are insane!
It's like literally that much of the run bar. It's like a not insubstantial amount of the run bar is just the credits.
Every show I'm like, is there an end credit scene?
What's going on?
No.
How this show didn't feel like it had that many special effects in it. So why is this a thing? So Plo Koon gets killed right at the start.
Right at the start.
Right at the start. She wakes up. She's like, okay, this was the other thing. She wakes up, right? I finally sit down. I start the show. I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself, okay, listen, I know you're frustrated. I know you don't want to watch this, but like, we got to give it an honest chance. We have to give it an honest chance. And as I think to myself, it's so easy to hate. You have to give it a chance. She falls, looks around, and sees a dead Jedi and a bunch of skid marks on the ground. And then she looks over and Plo Koon dies. And I'm like, I'm trying so hard to give you a chance. I am trying so hard, and you just keep spitting in my face every time. I'm like, show me what you got. You're like, right in my eye, and I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah,
guys, like, you can't just the entire way that you're going about this makes no fucking sense, and it's infuriating.
Yeah.
Because it's 100% revisionist history. You're just going through and wiping out old stuff and writing in new stuff. And it's maddening.
That's what they've been doing since Obi-Wan, though. I mean, it's like they rewrote the entire first movie.
But like they didn't change how the Force itself works.
No, they didn't change
this
that.
This is the actual function of the universe.
Oh, yeah.
The actual sides in the universe. They're changing how things work.
Yes.
And it's so maddening.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, cool, you have X-23 wielding 2 lightsabers and then getting fucking killed.
Yeah.
That was like, when Yor died, spoilers, I was like, thank you. Finally, something we can agree on is that Yor needed to die.
He absolutely needed to die.
He needed to be gone. I was done with him.
But once again, they take this character who, at the beginning, they make him out, he is a Jedi Master.
Yeah. He has a Padawan.
And he died, like, he's a bumbling idiot throughout the show, and he barely puts up a fight and gets his neck broken.
He immediately dies. Because these are the worst Jedis of all time.
Oh,
these are the worst Jedis of all time.
They're Stormtrooper Jedis.
Yes.
Because they can't hit anything, they can't fight.
They can't sense anything.
No.
To call them blind is to be offensive to blind people. Like, Matt Murdock could sense more things through the Force than these idiots can. Like,
sensing things is the thing.
It's a full fucking thing. Well, okay, so I'm going to point over here. This is our Metahuman Olympics.
Okay.
The bottom line is telepath telekinetic. There's 2 Jedis there because they can sense emotion.
Yeah.
Which is close enough to telepathy that you can kind of get the same power rank from it.
Yes.
These are the dumbest Jedi.
Oh, they're terrible.
You've ever seen. So dumb. So fucking dumb.
And the dumbest one is Saul, who's supposed to be one of the most powerful.
I didn't think he was dumb until episode 6, and then I was like, man, this guy's a fucking idiot.
But he actually mentions how dumb he was. It was episode 2 when they were on the planet and they first meet Smilo Ren when he's running the shop. Was that 2?
Yeah, that was episode 2.
That was episode 2. Where he's interacting with this powerful Sith Lord, has no idea.
No idea.
And he brings it up in episode 6 to himself, like, I'm such an idiot.
Well,
how did I not feel anything?
Not only that, apparently Smilo Ren knows Soul, Because he keeps on hinting that Soul did something to him.
Yes.
And so Soul knows this guy, has had some kind of emotional bond with this person, has met this guy on numerous occasions. Yeah. You can give the argument that he's wearing this Jedi power armor helmet that supposedly is a sensory deprivation thing that allows him to block out everything but the Force.
Yes.
And that's why Soul can't get a read on him. But he's not wearing that stupid helmet when he's running the apothecary.
Yeah.
So what the fuck?
I don't get
what
that.
the actual fuck is going on?
I don't get that.
And I will never get over the line, you might call me a Sith. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
What the fuck does that mean?
It seemed like this series is trying to play him off as the first Sith.
As a proto-Sith.
But we know that's not the case.
But that's not the case. And not only is it not the case, he doesn't follow the Sith code.
No.
So, like, if anything, you can tell that he's not a Sith because he wants a Padawan. You might have heard of it. Kind of a big deal. The rule of two. Kind of a big deal in the Sith culture.
Yes.
Rule of two. Okay? Talk to Count Dooku about the rule of two. Okay? So you would have been a failed Sith, is what you're saying, because you want your own Padawan. So now you want the rule of four, I guess is what you're saying. But also you've chosen two people that were born via the use of metachlorians. Again, this has happened before. And when it happened to Anakin Skywalker, he was the most powerful Jedi of all time because he was made out of metachlorians.
Yes.
And then you have these two idiots who can't do jack shit.
Yeah.
So either their metachlorian got split between the two of them, at which point I'm like, then why did you have them be an Immaculate Conception? Or they're just bad.
Yeah.
And you don't understand Star Wars. And we're talking about the biology of Star Wars, which I hate.
Yeah.
Which I hate. But you've still put us into this position because you keep on insinuating that that's where you're coming from.
And that's an annoying thing about May and Osha. They cannot use the Force like Obi-Wan in the Obi-Wan TV show. But then all of a sudden they'll do a Force push.
They can, yeah.
Which is like a ridiculous Jedi, like super strong Force. It's like, how?
What?
How do you...
Well, and apparently Osha is the heaviest sleeper of all time.
Oh,
like Jesus fucking Christ, heavy sleeper.
2 episodes in a row, she's a heavy sleeper.
Yeah.
Because she starts episode 6 by being passed out because she falls down a tiny 2-foot little decline.
She falls off a decline, doesn't have a concussion.
No.
But is passed out for at least like 10 hours.
Oh, easily.
Like at least 10 hours minimum.
So let's get into that. So at the very end, May and her get in this standoff because May, of course, from the episode before, she's ready to throw in the towel and give up everything to the Jedi. But then by the end of episode 5, she's like, fuck it.
Fuck that
I'm
noise.
bad again.
Yeah. Well, not only that, it becomes the Benny Hill show. Yeah. Where everybody's just chasing May through the forest. And that's it. That's the entire episode, is just people chasing after May in the forest. Yeah. And May being like, oh, I gotta go. And then she stops and she looks around. And she sees one person and gets in a minor fight, and then, I gotta go. And like every time Smilo Ren shows up, I gotta go. And it's just like this guy who's supposedly like this amazing fighter, which I want to also note, one of the reasons they say he's an amazing fighter is because he doesn't pay attention to the rules of combat.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck that means in this context.
I don't get that at all.
So he can't just grab her, pull her up, lift her in the air, Magneto style, just be like, oh, you can't run now. Because he's this great Sith Lord. Yeah. But he gets carried off by a bunch of moths. Because he's a great Sith Lord.
Fucking moths.
Oh, wait, no. You might call him a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
You might not. I choose not to.
Then there were those two situations where he had Saul, and I think it was Yord. He had both of them on the ground and then just disappeared to go look for May instead of killing them.
Saul and Jecki.
Saul and Jecki.
Yord is an incompetent idiot. Jecki is shown to be this great warrior.
Yes.
And then she gets knifed.
But only after she refines him. And it's like, dude.
Yeah. And almost pulling off the exact moves as Anakin Skywalker when he gets his arm chopped.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost word for word. And then you're like, oh, but we're going to make this quick change at the end. And there were just so many moments in this where I was like, this is fucking dumb.
Yeah.
We finally get a reason for the Pip droid.
Oh, God
named
damn it.
Pip. He gets to be plugged onto the back of Smilo Ren and carried off and then found and then rebooted. And we're all supposed to be like, oh, what's going to happen to Pip?
We're going to talk about episode 6.
What's going to happen to Pip? But like, so you get to the end of episode 5, and everybody's been split up. And so May does this big
that is the worst haircut with the lightsaber.
And I thought she was going to cut off her own head. I was like, what is happening right now?
It was the most overly dramatic. But then, by a quick swipe with the lightsaber, her hair is
exactly the same as Osha's. Exactly the same as Osha's. God. With just one swipe of the lightsaber. You too can have the perfect haircut for this fall.
That was so cringe.
It's so bad. So bad. So she does a parent trap, and she swaps them out. And so now you have Osha's going with Smilo Ren, who knows that she's not May the whole time. Before she's even conscious, he knows that is not May.
Not Saul.
There were a lot of moments where I was like, please tell me you're going to realize.
Through the end of this episode, and through the entirety of episode 6 until the end,
he has no idea. No idea. The
worst fucking Jedi.
The worst fucking Jedi of all time. Like, the worst fucking Jedi of all time. And, like, then you have Basil the muskrat.
I hate that
who
thing.
Gets so much screen time.
I hate that.
For no reason. Like, okay, so you think about it. So Basil runs off into the woods, right?
Yes.
And then Yord and Osha are following, trying to find Basil so that they can all go back to the ship. And then Osha and Yord turn around and they go back.
Yes.
Basil picks up the pip droid and sniffs it and gets a scent on it. And he's like, okay. And he starts following the scent. And he gets back on the ship. And he's still following the scent. And at this point, May has done the swap out. So now May and Sol are on the ship. And Basil is following May's trail because that's the only trail he could be following with everything that's happened. He doesn't at any point realize, like, hey, I'm on this ship and we just took off. And Sol and Osha are the only people on this ship. But I smell May.
Yeah.
Let me continue my investigation. What?
I hate that thing.
And then he plugs in Pip so it can charge.
And he looks around. I don't know.
But there's a whole moment where he's like, "How do I plug it in?
Funny part.
I always get this wrong."
So before we go on with episode 6, because I have a lot to say about episode 6, you brought up a point of episode 5 that pissed me off so goddamn much. So Yord is taking Osha back to the ship because he has to take her back to the ship. And it gets to the third cutaway where she's like, he's going to kill everybody. And that's where Yord's like, you know what? You're right. Let's go back.
Let's go back.
What the fuck did you think was going to happen
and then
prior to that?
He immediately gets killed.
Oh my God.
Yord doesn't do anything in this episode except get fucking killed.
But that whole waste of time.
Yeah.
To where Yord has no idea that this evil Sith Jedi is going to kill everybody. He thinks they're just going to have a conversation and then part ways.
That the Jedi are going to win when he's watched at least 3 Jedi get jacked by this person. Yeah. And he's like, no. My mission is to take you back to the ship. Sol gave me an order. And I'm just sitting here like, you are the worst Jedi.
That was the worst.
You are all the worst Jedis of all time.
Yeah.
Like any one of you. Just the absolute worst fucking Jedis of all time. Congratulations. I said that you weren't going to bring the moths back. You did. For reasons I don't even fully understand. Yeah. As a delaying tactic, I guess. And so we can have this Parent Trap swap out.
They spent a lot of money on that CGI character design. They just needed it in another scene.
It's just,
actually another 2 scenes.
Well, but they spent so much time on the prosthetics for Yord's Padawan. She's never going to be in this show again.
Or is. Oh, that's true. It's not her that's in the show again. It's Yeki. You get that nice close-up of her in episode 6 just to get the, like, makeup.
Make sure that you know that she's dead.
Yeah, she's dead.
Really, really drive it home that she is truly dead. But you know what I really loved about that in episode 6? So often, there are moments where I am baffled as to how we get from one location to another. One of the nice things about Star Wars is that they use wipes to help indicate when you're moving from one place to another. So, they do that. But, you know, it's just so hard sometimes. You better put up the planet name just to make sure everybody knows where we are.
Yes.
Okay, we're on Kofar. Immediately get on the ship and leave Kofar. Why did you have an entire establishing shot with subtitles saying Kofar where everybody knows where Saul is right now? Nobody's confused by where Saul is. Only for him and May to take off immediately and leave Kofar. So they are no longer on Kofar. The best you can argue is that they are in the skies above Kofar, and then May takes them out into orbit. So they're no longer on Kofar. So why did you have an entire establishing shot and subtitles saying that they were on Kofar, which nobody was confused about, but did take up runtime? What is this bad, terrible filmmaking? This is the worst filmmaking I've seen in so long.
Well, and that's the thing about this episode 6. I have been super critical of the acting and the directing in this show, and this might be the worst as far as the acting side of it.
The acting's really bad.
It was so laughably bad.
I was more distracted by the terrible meal they were serving me than the acting and the directing, where like that kind of like fell into the whole of everything that was happening. But like every time we cut back to Basil, every time we cut back to Sol being fully fooled that this is Osha, every one of those moments I was just like, what is this bullshit? What is this bullshit? And then we find out, on top of all the other bullshit, Osha's job also bullshit.
Yeah.
Because even though the Trade Federation hired her because they don't like droids and they need someone to repair things without using astromechs, the droid is still the only thing that actually does the repair, and then she just uses her hands to actually do it.
Yeah.
But May has to repair something, and so what does she do? She factory resets Pip. Oh no! And now Pip has red eyes. Yeah. Oh, it's evil Pip now.
It's so stupid.
So the factory reset is the standard default is red eyes. That's what you're implying here. You said factory default, and now it has red eyes. So that's how it came.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is Osha went through the settings to find the eye color that she liked on the Pip droid, and then the Pip droid just tells May how to repair the thing on the ship.
But that whole reboot scene.
Oh, and then the phones are down. Oh, the phones are down.
May has to fix this, and she goes and finds the Pip droid. And when she finds it, that little creature, what the hell's that? Basil finds her,
grabs her leg,
does a weird kung fu-like thing.
Yeah.
Grabs her leg, then kicks her in the shin and steals her flashlight.
And then runs away.
And then Pip makes the machine squirt oil in her eye because that's so silly. And then she goes, I'm gonna factory reset. And you can factory reset a droid in Star Wars like you do an iPhone.
Not even like you do an iPhone. An iPhone, you still have to go through menus.
Well, that's
this
true.
is like if you had a hard restart.
Oh
and you just had to hold down the power button and the control button.
It's kind of like Control-Alt-Delete.
It's exactly like that.
Dude.
And it's
that
just like,
scene,
this show sucks.
I was so happy that I was mentally manipulated at that point, because I'm like, I would find no joy in my life at this moment unless I had
a few last night
so bad
while watching it, and I'm just like, this doesn't help.
Dude, it was
even
so
this doesn't
bad.
help. Even in this state, I can still look at this and tell you the 10 things you got wrong. Like, that's bad. That's really bad.
So then we got to get to Osha waking up on creatively titled Unknown Planet.
Well, is it unknown, or is it the planet that Luke Skywalker is on in The Last Jedi?
That has been verified by the showrunners that is not the case, but it was intentional.
It looks exactly like it.
That was an intentional move, they said.
Of course it was, because they're terrible filmmakers. They're awful filmmakers. This planet looks exactly like Endor, which I know is a moon, not a planet, but it's not Endor. This planet looks exactly like Hoth, but it's not Hoth. There's nothing about it that distinguishes it in any way. And if you saw, there were so many moments where I was like, Jake Jordan is going to go milk one of those fucking seal cows, whatever you want to call it. And awful. But wait, they didn't have porks. They had these weird little squidgy things instead.
Yes.
So that's how you know it's different.
Yes. That when they play dead, they look like rocks, so she didn't notice them. And Osha waking up and drinking a mystery liquid in the cave of... She doesn't know where the fuck she is because she was passed out. She doesn't even know who has her.
Yeah.
And then she walks out, and you see Smilo Ren walking, and then there's the thirst trap for the show.
Take off all of his clothes.
He pulls a Hemsworth,
Yeah.
takes off all his clothes to go swimming, and comes out and does the worst dialogue and dialogue reading with the head turned and his eyes are squinted and he even has a little pouty lips as he's talking.
It's so Playboy. It's so like, just love me. I'm a lost little puppy who just needs to be healed. Oh, I am not in any way doing anything nefarious or gaslighting you at all.
No.
Oh, please fall for my trap. Oh, please fall for my trap.
And then they go from where she's holding his lightsaber and he's like, oh, you have good technique. But then as he's coming out, she holds it as if she's like roasting a marshmallow. Yeah. And I'm like, are you going to comment her shitty technique now? You just commented how good her technique was.
Yeah, this means nothing. This is garbage, man.
It was so fucking bad.
It's so bad. It was like watching someone, there's an episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia where the gang go through the trials of being pitched on a timeshare.
Yes.
This was exactly the same energy of just Jake Jorrels is trying to sell OSHA a timeshare. And the timeshare in this case is the Sith, which isn't the Sith. I want to emphasize this again. You could call him the Sith. You could call him the Sith. Yes. You wouldn't. Because if you could call him the Sith, you would call him the Sith. But the fact that you are now intimating that you only could means that he's not a Sith, but something kind of like a Sith, but distinct enough that it's not a Sith.
Yeah.
But like close enough that you can squint your eyes and be like, that's a Sith. And then you look close and you're like, oh, that's not a Sith.
Yeah.
That is orange and that's red. Look from a distance, it kind of looks like an orangey red. Then you get up close and you're like, oh no, that's orange and that's red. So, not a Sith.
Yeah.
But basically a Sith without any of the religion aspects of being a Sith.
Yes.
His whole thing is basically like, I want to be able to use the Force however I want. And I'm like, okay. What is it? So in this whole world where we've had so many different Force cults pop up, including in this fucking show.
Yeah.
You rip off the Sith, name drop the Sith, which again, Jedis here will go on to say have not been seen in thousands of years.
Yes.
And then you make him not the Sith. But he's also not one of these witches, and he's also not from some other offshoot. He's some other thing.
Yes.
And I'm just like, this is bullshit.
But then in this episode, he brings up the power of two and how he wants to have a second person, and so that makes you think it's the Sith again, and you're like, God damn it, dude.
But if it was, then he
whiplash.
He wouldn't be able to have the power of two because he would have a master hunting him right now.
Yes.
So I'm so confused. If Darth Plagueis shows up, I'm going to throw a couch.
Well, that's the thing that could make the show stupider. Is they kind of hinted, if you think about it, at the very end of the show,
Plagueis.
that he is the apprentice, and that Saul is Darth Plagueis.
Oh yeah, that
because he turns off the communication, and he doesn't want to be there.
He turns off the communication just as the rescue team is going to arrive,
and he makes sure to get out of there right before the rescue team arrives. And he says, "We have to find May."
Even though if that was actually his prerogative, why call in the rescue team in the first place?
I see, but
he's the one that called it in.
Things need to make sense.
So why would he call it in only to then be like, "Oh my God, they're going to find me"?
And they even have that discussion on the planet when that one dumbass British Jedi says, "Oh, do you think Master Saul?" And then you have freaking Vernestra say, "Oh, well, why would he call us in?"
That's quite an accusation.
Yes, quite an accusation. Oh, her delivery, she was terrible.
Awful. Every time she talks, I'm like, man, I don't know what you were brought in this for, but it's not good.
Well, they kind of made it known when she kills the bug, okay, Smilo Ren has whip marks on his back, and she has a lightsaber that can turn into a whip?
Where do you think that came from?
I wonder where that came. It's like, dude.
Yeah.
It's just the writing, the directing, and the acting are some of the worst I've ever seen.
It's all bad. Like, that's the thing, is that there's nothing I can hang my hat on.
No.
All of it is bad.
Yes.
Top to bottom, it's all bad. And then they'll show me something like a lightsaber whip or a Wookiee Jedi. And they're like, oh, see, this has stuff you've never seen that you've wanted to see for years. And I'm like, duh! On top of a shit pile of garbage.
Yeah.
You literally have Jedi power armor. We had that as children because we couldn't fight well enough to not get tapped by lightsabers. So you had to have something that would prevent the lightsabers from hurting you.
Yes.
Do you think if at any point Jedi power armor actually existed, it would have come up in the last, 45 years? Because I kind of feel like it would have come up at some fucking
Supposedly,
point.
it was in some canonical, like, comic book or...
No, because they got rid of all that shit. They stripped it all out.
Well, I know they did. I'm saying, even though they stripped it out, it was mentioned. So it's like I had heard something about it, but it's, like you said, it's never been seen. It's never been talked about.
It's never been talked about. This is the first time it's ever been brought up in a movie. Tell me again how this doesn't sound chintzy and made up.
I think the whole point of it was for that final scene going to credits.
Oh, 100%.
Where Osha's wearing it and she sounds like Darth Vader with her breathing.
And she's going to go into the Force because she's in this sensory deprivation helmet. And so it's going to make it so that she can't feel anything but the Force. And she's going to... But, except, according to her mother, the Force isn't a thing. The Force is a lie.
Yes.
And it's been a thread this whole fucking time. Mm-hmm. And also, what is May's whole objective? Because I've fully lost track of what she's trying to accomplish.
I can't. Because then she was like... at one point going to stab Saul on the ship, but then he turned around quick, and so she's like, "Oh, I guess
I won't do it right now."
Dude, you were gonna like turn yourself into Saul and be like 100%. I'm what's wrong and this and that, and now it's like, oh,
they'll forgive me if I give them my master. What happened to that plan? What happened to that dumbass fucking plan?
And that's the problem with, and I think that's my biggest problem with the show is they're setting things up that if it was written correctly and done properly, could have a good payoff. But at this point, regardless of what the payoff is, everything has been so badly. It's like watching like Lady in the Water.
Yeah.
Bad M. Night Shyamalan movies that have the twist at the end. It doesn't matter what the twist is. If the whole movie leading up to it was fucking terrible.
Well, to me, it reminds me of The Happening, where it's a terrible movie, and then at the end... M. Night Shyamalan comes out and says, "Oh, well, it's supposed to be a parody of terrible movies, so that's why it's a terrible movie. It's because I was trying to make a terrible movie." Oh, is that why it was bad?
Yeah.
So the whole plan was to make a terrible movie. The whole time was to make a terrible movie.
And all the marketing was M. Night Shyamalan's first R-rated movie. Hold on to your seat. It's terrifying.
It's terrifying. It's not a terrible, awful movie.
Tongue-in-cheek.
No,
Marky Mark's going to talk to a plant.
Marky Mark, well, you're going to have an entire guy do a soliloquy on the wonder of hot dogs. Oh my God. They're the perfect food. And just awful shit garbage. And this reminds me of that.
Yes.
Of just like, this is awful shit garbage, and then everybody calls it out as awful shit garbage, and the creators are like, "Oh, you just don't get it. You just don't get my vision for what I'm doing." And it's like, no.
Your vision is
You don't
dog
have
shit.
a vision.
Yes.
There is no vision. If you had a vision, you would follow the rules of Star Wars. You have profoundly rejected the rules of Star Wars, and so you have no vision.
Yeah.
I hate this show.
And that's like the only thing, and you think they would learn from the prequels. At least the prequels, other than midichlorians, stuck to pretty much everything.
Yeah.
The midichlorians was the only real deviation.
Like they expanded the Force powers, and they started the Jedi are blind to things that they don't want to acknowledge, which is really what the show is trying to hang its hat on.
Oh, big time.
Is that all of these Jedis are just blind to what they don't want to acknowledge, which just happens to be anything that is plot related in any capacity. These Jedis just can't see or sense or anything, which is garbage because it doesn't make any fucking sense within the body of the plot that these Jedis, who are real Jedis, would be approaching problems this way.
Yes.
It just makes no fucking sense. And like I'm waiting for Smilo Ren to use the Force to turn off people's lightsabers, like just to click the button and turn it off.
Oh, he will.
And kill people that way. It's like, yeah, no shit. You can come up with some really fucking dumb ways to kill people in Star Wars. The point is not to do that, though. You can do that in fucking anything.
Yeah.
So please take this seriously because, God, I can't stand this. This is awful garbage. This is awful garbage. The killing of Plo Koon is just such a microcosm of this whole show.
Yeah.
There's a whole history. We're going to cherry pick that history. We're going to use it to draw fans in. And then we're going to say, fuck you, fuck your history. This is something different.
And they, it's going to have to get to a point where they need to allow critique of this to look past the gender of the showrunner.
That has nothing to do with it.
But that's what they're making everything to do with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you gotta admit when something is just bad. And this is just fucking bad.
If Michael Bay came to us with this turd and said, I made a Star Wars. Oh, you know what? We have one. I don't even need to come up with a hypothetical because we have one.
What's that?
When Robert Rodriguez made Book of Boba Fett.
Yes.
And we all sat around and said, this isn't Star Wars.
Yep.
And they said, no, this is the new version of Star Wars. And we were like, no, this isn't Star Wars. That had nothing to do with Robert Rodriguez as an individual. That had nothing to do with his demographic.
Yeah.
That had everything to do with the creative decisions he made coming into this show.
And that was a filmmaker that has had success and has an actual resume of things.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is somebody who's never really done anything. So you kind of have that pass if you just admit that it maybe isn't that good.
You went the wrong way. You got
then you
turned
could say,
around.
well, listen, it's her first thing.
Yeah.
It's her first big thing. Give you a pass on that. Someone like Robert Rodriguez, you're not going to get the pass because you've done things of this budget, so you need to be able to actually find a way to make the narrative work. To with her, it's like, dude, okay, regardless of anything, it's your first big thing, we'll give you a pass. But when you're saying you can't criticize me over it, it's like, no, dude, that's not part of it. Yeah, I can't make anything. I can't even make a show as good as you're making this because I don't know how to make it. But I've seen enough things that I feel confident critiquing it.
Yeah. I know what works and I know what doesn't
work.
And if you're going to, I said this last time we talked about the Acolyte, in regards to both her and Kathleen Kennedy. If you're going to splatter your name all over this, which they do, she is credited on at least 3 or 4 points. If you're going to splatter your name all over this, then it's your fault when it doesn't work.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with you as an individual. That has everything to do with the fact that you wanted credit for this, so now the credit, which is bad, has to come to someone, which is you. So you can't be angry at us for calling your show bad because you made a bad show and then put your name all over it.
And this is a discussion I've actually been having with both of my kids. Neither one of them handle criticism well. They always, even if you go, gently, like if my daughter does something, I'm like, honey, I just want to let you know what you did. Don't do it again. I'm not mad at you. She can't handle that still. She starts crying or it makes her upset. And it's like, this is kind of the situation she's in where it's like, listen, you're new to this stuff. You need to be able to take the criticism and grow from it. If you're not taking the criticism, you're not going to get better at what you're doing. I mean, James Cameron made Piranha 2 before he made Terminator. It's like he made some shitty stuff that people were like, this is fucking dog shit. I don't know why the fuck you're watching it. Peter Jackson made Bad Taste and Brain Dead. And even though you love Bread did, Meet the Feebles. It got, he gets hammered for it, but he learns from it, learns what he needs to do, and becomes better.
The Frighteners isn't a perfect movie.
Yeah.
But you can look at it and see the growth in his career, in his CGI, in his storytelling. This is just a fucking mess.
Yes.
This is just a fucking mess top to bottom. And every time I have any kind of question about it, the answer is, fuck you. It's my vision.
Exactly.
Fuck you.
If you can't accept critique, you're not going to improve.
No. Well, not only that, you shouldn't be in... Listen, I, as a person who struggled with accepting critique for decades, you shouldn't be in the industry if you can't handle critique.
Yeah.
If you can't handle critique, don't get in the industry and don't make a Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
Because I agree, Star Wars fans can be awful. I still feel bad for Kelly Marie Tran, who did not deserve what happened to her because of The Last Jedi.
Yes.
She was not the problem with that movie.
Not at all.
There were a million other things that were the problem with that movie. But Rian Johnson certainly deserves blame for that movie. And so does Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
Because they were the two people that had the brainchild, that put it all together, that brought it out, that decided on the story, that decided on the narrative, that decided on the storytelling and the pacing. And this is what they came up with.
Yeah.
And while I can look at the Haldo maneuver and be like, that's an objectively cool shot, it doesn't change the fucking gambling planet.
Yeah.
Or the kid that moves the broom with the Force at the end of the movie. Or the fact that Finn, Rey, and Poe do not become a trio until the end of the second movie. Or any of the other myriad of problems that this movie had. The entirety of Captain Phasma. Like, I can go on. Benicio del Toro. Do you remember that he was in this trash
Jesus
pile?
Christ, I do forget that sometimes.
Like, this is what I'm saying. That all falls on Rian Johnson. This all falls on her.
Yes.
Leslie
Headland.
This all falls on her because she's the person running it. She has the reins, and if you don't like it, then don't come into the sandbox.
Yeah.
If you don't like how people are going to critique how you use the sandbox, then don't get in the sandbox. We will be perfectly happy over here where we have rules and regulations on how to use the sandbox. You can't come in, dump a fuck ton of water and cement and say, it's a new sandbox.
Yeah.
No! That fucking ruins everything for everybody. And it's incredibly selfish and outrageously demeaning to a fan and disrespectful to us as fans to do this shit. Anyway.
And that's it kind of goes with an interview I saw with Kevin Smith recently where he's talking about how he makes these smaller movies because A, it's a lot easier to make your money back on a smaller movie, and B, if it gets panned, he doesn't give a shit because it's a $2-3 million movie. It's not like he's making Cop.
Yeah.
What's that? Cop Out.
There's a difference between Cop Out and Zack and Miri make a porno.
Yeah. He goes, if somebody says, oh, your last movie sucks, he goes, what, yoga hosers? Okay.
Yeah.
If I can cost nothing.
Fine.
What, the one with the walrus? Okay.
Yeah,
Tusk? It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's the kind of mentality, if, like you said, if you're going to be given a $180 million budget, you got to take responsibility for a $180 million budget.
My final critique is the same one that I sent to you last night.
What's that?
Which is now that you've brought up Kevin Smith. If I wanted to watch a donkey show, I would watch Clerks 2.
Yes.
I would watch a Kevin Smith movie. And ironically, Kevin Smith would probably make a much better Star Wars movie because he knows the fucking history.
Yes.
Even if it was just like Clerks but in the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
It would get the whole of it much more than any of this moment, and that's not because he's a man, and it's not because he's white. It has everything to do with the fact that he actually knows this shit and has been following it the whole time.
And this goes back to what I said that a couple episodes ago, where the big problem is the critics that are getting hammered are the nerds who 20 years ago were made fun of for liking Star Wars. So now, because they're being critical because you're trying to take over the thing they love that you made fun of them over, but now you can make money on, so you're going to try to do your own thing with, that's not fair to me, man.
You weren't interested in Star Wars.
No.
You, I don't know that this is true, but the sound of it so smacks with the tone of the show is, I had an idea for a Star Wars thing. I'm going to fix Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like that feels like what the look and feel of this show is I'm going to go in and I'm going to take all the dumb parts of Star Wars and I'm going to fix them, and I'm going to take everything else and elevate it to make it even better. And instead what you've done is trash on everything that makes Star Wars and made an incredibly terrible show on top of it, where if we're just talking about the filmmaking and narrative, also bad.
And this is where I think the lead blame has to be on Kathleen Kennedy, because she is the one that is hiring these people who have these visions that go against everything of the canon, everything of what made it what it is, and saying, I sign off on you to do this.
Yeah.
She is the top of the mountain.
Well, until she doesn't like what they're doing.
And then she
fires them and brings in somebody else to do what she wants them to do.
So, like, I put her and Kevin Feige right now, side by side, for destroying these two franchises. One that Kathleen Kennedy didn't even build, but she helped build, and one that Feige built, pretty much. Him and Jon Favreau together. Mm-hmm. And it's like, they just are... You could tell they don't give a shit about the fans. They don't give a shit about the real fans. They give a shit about the money and how much they can make and how quickly they can get something out and how many new fans they could bring in by completely changing everything to maybe bring in these tertiary fans. But they don't understand that the tertiary fans are not going to be there in 2 years.
They're going to leave it.
They're going to leave it for any reason.
Yeah, because they don't care.
They don't care.
Because these are franchises that have been around for over 40 years. And if they didn't care before, they're not going to care now.
Yeah.
It's not like somebody's going to sit down and watch The Acolyte and be like, this is what Star Wars was always missing.
Yeah.
Because if they did, then they didn't like Star Wars before.
Yep.
Because everything in The Acolyte is antithetical to what Star Wars is.
It's kind of like with the Wii. When the Wii came out and it started selling to everybody, and everyone's like, oh my god, everyone's gamers now. It's like, no, they're not.
Yeah.
This is a a niche thing that is being sold to this group, but in 2 years they're not going to give a shit. And you know what? In 2 years, you could find a Wii for fucking nothing. And it was nothing but shovelware because everyone couldn't give a shit.
Yeah.
It was collecting dust. And it's like, but the core people still were like, no, but we still want like core Nintendo franchises and we want this, but they weren't listening to us. And now they're finally listening again with the Switch, and hopefully all these things that we love will have like a Switch-type renaissance in a couple years when new showrunners take over.
Yeah.
But we're seeing that with DC. May or may not happen with fucking James Gunn. So
we'll see. Knows? No, it reminds me a lot of a bit on Dropout where they announced the new Phase 6 villain, and it's Raisin Man. And the bit is the guy playing Kevin, Zach Oyama, is going over and he's like, this is what we're doing. This is the whole timeline of all these movies that are coming out. And then next year, Raisin Man. And one of the other improvers acts as a person in the audience. And they're like, who? Raisin Man. Who's that? What comic is he in? Oh, we don't have to do that anymore. We're past that. We can do whatever we want now. And I'm doing Raisin Man. That's what this is.
Exactly.
That's exactly what this is.
And that's sad. That's sad.
Yeah.
Well, folks, not to end on a sad note, but that is the end of Nerdpod Generations episode 145. We really hope you enjoyed everything you heard. We will be back next week, and we'll be back for the unknown future because we have no vacations coming up.
No, we already got all of our vacations done.
Everything's out of the way. So, Nerdpod Generations 145. So please go to nerdpodgen.com, look us up, let us know what you think about the show, let us know what you think about us. There is a part on our website where you can just email us directly and let us know what you think of us.
Yeah.
Think of the show. So, Al, who does our music and our logo?
Our art is by Kortney Howell. Our
awesome.
Theme is by Brendan Williams and James Connolly. I am Alfred Judson.
I'm Steve Taylor.
And until next week, friends and enemies, we won't cover 2 episodes of The Acolyte.
No.
Thank the gods.
I don't even want to carry one.
Have a good one, friends and enemies.